Board meeting to order being 6 o'clock Tuesday, October 12th, 2021. Time being 6 o'clock for budget planning. Roll call, Mr. Gatsky.
Here.
Mr. Page.
Here.
This,
Schatzinger. Here.
Jolene.
Yeah, Jolene.
Golly Park.
Mr. Hanson. Here. Mr. Wirch.
Here.
Mr. Wargula.
Here.
And I'm here. Any public comment? Hearing none, seeing none, moving on to budget planning.
Approve the agenda.
I'll second that. Sorry about that. Is there a second to Jim's
Yep.
motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Public comment? Hearing none, moving on. Budget planning. Jim sent out a revised budget. Anything you want to bring to our attention, Jim, or?
No, I just basically went off the numbers we had talked about the other day and, lack of a better term, backed into it in a sense of the number that we came up with. Basically for the paid on promise firefighters, with the 85,000 in that line item and then backed into it for the municipality shares on each one. And you can see from the cost allocation over the 5-year average, you can see where the numbers kind of kicked in, and it's right around about that 3.2, somewhere in there.
And just so everyone knows, I did look it up yesterday and the day before. And I said there was 70,000 left, there's actually 75,385, whether that makes a difference for anybody here or not. I just wanted to make sure that the number was correct, not 75,385.
Say it again specifically, that is the amount left of what you budgeted for to this time?
That's what we were under budgeted and normal expenses last year,
To this date,
last year,
yeah. Oh, I
last
see.
fiscal year.
Last fiscal year,
2020.
got it.
Which is where you got the 70,000 from, but I didn't wanna.
Because we haven't done
Not
it.
that it changes anything.
We couldn't,
Huh?
we couldn't. Remember when you're gonna transfer funds to the capital replacement fund, so it has accounting principles in there with depreciation. So sometimes even though we have a surplus in our checkbook in a sense, we can't put that in capital replacement because when you do the accounting of what we actually cost for the year, depreciation's figured in there. That's a big, big hit on us on accounting, that a lot of times the depreciation sucks that out, if you will, and then we don't have, technically, by our formula, we can't put that in capital replacement.
So it's all bookkeeping,
Correct. Because technically,
which is bullshit, but.
well, no, because technically on our budget, we should have depreciation figured in there, so we should really be earmarking it, so it's a true cost, it's a true accounting cost, but it's not technically on our
But
checkbook.
yet we still have the dollars. It might be true
Correct.
accounting cost, but we didn't buy anything, so we still have the 70,000.
Correct.
Could put in I mean, I understand, it's an accounting,
Yeah, we've gone through that
rigmarole.
every year, that we look good, but technically when the auditors look at it, they say, no, you're a little short, technically on paper, because of the way they depreciate all the accounting principles, basically depreciation, because you look at our vehicles, some big ticket items, and they depreciate $100,000 a year, you know?
yeah.
And she explained all that in here.
Yeah,
So
right.
that was after that was over.
I know, but it just,
It's
To me,
weird,
it's-
it's weird, it
It is.
because we have the money,
always has been, yeah.
except they can't count the money because it's taken off of someplace. Yeah,
So forgive me for being, again, new to this, but you just said, so technically, we could put it in the budget as depreciation. Is there, should look at next year doing that? Is that what you were just
No,
saying?
equipment replacement more than depreciation, if I misspoke. Not, you don't line item for depreciation, you line item for equipment replacement or something like that. But the issue there is you start doing that, again, you could be the other way, because again, we have to have that overage there, one big fire. 20 grand, go on. things like that. So if we line item for the depreciation, you know, you don't really ever account for the depreciation.
Okay.
It's an accounting principle where
Yeah.
nobody ever really budgets for that. Not for the depreciation. You can budget for equipment replacement, but again, if we started doing that now, because we never did 20 years ago, if we start doing that now, that'd be more than your 5% replacement. So basically, we looked at it with, all right, municipalities, because it started back in the day, municipalities, you do your own thing for equipment replacement versus the district, is the way I always understood it.
Yeah, and if you were a private person in your business, that depreciation works different for you than it does for us, because you can deduct it from your tax system.
So at the bottom here, you got 2021 total, is this supposed to be 2022 total? For the 571?
Could be. If that-
It's in the 2022 line.
Yeah, it has 2022 in it. I don't know where you're seeing 2021 at.
Right at the bottom here. it says
Bottom right,
2020.
it's just
Oh.
21 instead of 22.
Oh,
Total. So in the end, the total budget is 100,000 more than last year, right?
Correct, for expenditures, yep.
But technically, we are only 500,000, right? Because we have the 70 plus
Technically,
thousand.
the only technical increase is about 12,000 year over year from the municipalities. Because remember, we're increasing fire fees and things like that, all the miscellaneous revenues. So you're looking at expenditures meeting revenues. So the revenue side also increased to meet those expenditures. So it depends which way you want to look at it or ask about it. True municipality costs went up about 12 grand, 12 change.
For all three municipalities?
Total.
Yeah.
Total. Your increase was $462.06.
Can I be reminded of what we're able to go back to the different municipalities of an increase by? It's what that percentage is, and then what we typically, I realize in the past, we haven't gone back and asked for more, correct? In recent history.
The only thing really we went back on was the ladder.
Right.
Yeah, and we, what,
Ladder would be the only thing that I can think of in recent memory.
Ladder and then the firehouse too.
Yeah, way before.
That's way back,
Yeah,
though.
way back. But, you know,
well, and we went back with one of the fire chiefs, he overspent by
Airbags?
70,000.
What do we do for that? Do you remember?
Thought that was budgeted.
I don't remember. Top of my head, I'm just not coming up with it.
I mean, I guess the reason I ask is that, is it smart to look at increasing, going back to municipalities and asking for that increase up to the amount we're able to, so that we know in the future we're gonna have to have some large expenditures? Engine, right, these things, that we're not asking, we're not surprising anyone as much?
Yeah, and I've had conversation with Adam, and obviously the other chairmans and board members are here for them, so I can't speak for their municipalities, but for us, it's always been put a real budget out there and put what it's really gonna cost us, those bigger ticket items, conversations with Adam, I know Chief has, I have, in the last months, plural, over those bigger expenditures. To increase it to the max to that 5%, it's 2%, you're talking $8,000. Not gonna get us a truck, not gonna get us a tender, not gonna get us an engine, not gonna get us, for the extra 8 grand, it's more operational versus a true operational from what day-to-day cost should be next year. It really wouldn't do us any good.
But if we had been doing that always, let's say for, years, that at that point, that would get us an engine, right?
Maybe hindsight, but if you did that for 10 years, that's 80 grand, and the engine's talking, what'd you price the last one out at?
700?
So no.
I guess I was just thinking, at what point is it smart to start that? But if it's
Yeah.
not something that we feel it is, it was just a question that,
What-
Yeah,
what
no,
you
it's,
need to-
we've had that discussion for years. It's not a new question to us, it's just kind of, I guess it started years and years ago, to be honest, before I was ever even here, that each municipality would worry about that when the time came. And there's different financing options besides this budgeting now. Lease options really came into effect the last time we did the ladder. We have some beautiful lease rates and basically financed it. Versus having to, how do you tell the municipalities, you're short here, you're short there, but give us 100,000 and we're gonna stick in a rainy day fund
Yeah.
for an engine for
Yeah.
10 years, 20 years down the road.
And, you
It'd be
know,
hard.
As leasing is popular, like Adam talked about with the other stuff, you know, people lease fire stuff too.
Oh, sure.
And so that was an option also. But when you're buying a ladder truck like that.
Garbage trucks, dump trucks,
Yeah.
trucks in general now, a big leasing thing, they went away from purchasing. I believe the city of Green Bay just totally sold off all their fleet and went to all leases, if I'm not mistaken. I thought that was in the last month here, I heard that.
You know, and what you can do as a municipality is put money aside. It's like DPS does that, we do that. We put so many dollars into
Mhm.
fire replacement and stuff. But leasing works, you know, for the city, it probably works a lot better than for us.
It comes down to finance. Can you borrow and pay monthly versus owning? No different than renting an apartment or buying a house in the regular world. You know, what's the true cost? Even leasing your own vehicle versus going out and buying one. Do you rent it for $300 a month or do you buy it for $60,000?
Yeah.
I feel like me, you just keep it for 25 years.
That's what we've done.
Yeah,
Or
right.
be like
That's what
Gary.
we've done.
Yeah.
We have 30-year-old fire engines, that's
I
what
told
we
my
do.
wife we can put collectors on pretty quick.
So there's not a right or wrong, there really isn't a right or wrong answer. I guess it's just kind of what we've always done.
And if
It's always been the way we financed it.
And if a
'cause-
truck blows up, municipality, the fire district's gonna have to go back to municipality and get the money. The thing is, you wanna be able, the municipality doesn't budget for that.
Right.
That's where the problem comes in. So now what are you gonna rob to pay off the fire truck? So,
That's where some of the contingency comes into play too. That's why we have a really bigger contingency. I think we talked about the last meeting. There's a little bit more to that because of the engine, because of the different what-ifs that could happen in our world, let alone, I know the city side, we have our own contingency in our budget too. But obviously, if a whole engine went down, nobody, I mean,
Yeah.
then we're financing. I mean,
and chances of that aren't that good, that it's,
Oh,
Where's some?
really, they're not. I'm used to driving old crap. So,
For me, the hard part was always money sitting there doing nothing for how long.
Right.
I can see that.
That's always been kind of the argument of the need of the municipality, especially since basically the levy freeze, 2011, forward. You only had this much of a kitty. We couldn't just raise taxes. You were set at stone at the levy, so unfortunately, costs went up, our revenue stayed
Stayed the
Same.
same.
level, if not down.
Yeah.
It didn't keep up with the, inflationary of the other expenses, so.
Well, farmer knows about that.
Yeah, it was hard, but
40 years ago, corn was the same price in Premier what it is now. so.
Right.
But we also have to be fiscally solvent to our municipalities and to our
We do.
citizens, so we're not jacking it up 100,000 a year just because or
And
whatever.
I thought we've been doing a real good job on this budget, by the way.
Oh, it's been tight.
Yes, it's been tight, but
Been
we've
tight.
kept in the budget,
Yeah.
so.
But we haven't transferred 2 years now. I mean, we're tight. I mean, I think the word fluff comes into play a lot of times when we
There
talk
is
about
none.
budgets. I mean, you can see, basically, page 2 and 3 are gone out the door before we ever start the year, in my opinion. Page 1's where any of it really comes into play as far as the breakdown budget detail. And most of the stuff at the bottom of the page, that's all gone, because that's all stuff we have to do with the testing and, things like that. We don't have a choice, we have to do flow test, we have to do ladder to x-ray, there's certain things we have to do certain years. The top of the page is kind of a give and take. That's why we have, I think, a little bit of the cushion from 2020, because due to COVID and things like that, because we didn't have as many meetings, we didn't have as many, fire personnel in the building, so. Will it always be that way? No. Eventually, we'll get back on track and normal, if you will. So that's the other thing I wanna make people aware of. We don't, that this isn't a normal, 2020 was not a normal budget to have those kind of reserves in the operating account, if you will.
We're fortunate we have that,
It was
to be in a
for this
position we are
situation.
now,
Yeah.
to do what we're doing.
But that was really an anomaly, it really wasn't a normal.
That's why, but that's why we have to plan for 2023 now, you know what I mean, in my book anyway.
Most of the time, we're getting to December and we're going, okay, where's contingency, what are we gonna do? And usually the December meeting is, we're right at that bare bones of, okay, how we doing here?
I mean, even Barb sends out financials, you know, every month with the monthly report and everything, but every time, starting usually in October, every time I submit bills to her, even September, I submit bills to her, I'm asked, she automatically, she knows that I want an updated budget thing. I want an updated budget, even though we just did it 2 weeks ago and here's the financials, I need to know where I'm at now versus last, 2 weeks ago from the meeting, so.
I guess that's really my question about this is, on paper, the way you laid it out now, I don't think it's gonna give Adam too much heartburn. I don't think, right? Because it's not that big of a sticker shock because you're using your reserves. My question is tied to, what is next year?
Right.
Right, I guess I don't understand that because it's, it's this plus what you don't have in the reserves already that you're burning through this year. So I guess I just don't know, maybe it's because I've never done this before. I just don't, my question, and the back end of my question is there a way, I don't know if this is the solution, is there a way to put a referendum out that increases mill rate just tied to firefighter fund? Right? Is there a way to earmark some amount that would just go to you?
I don't.
I don't know if that's the solution.
Yeah,
just didn't know if
I don't
that's
I
know.
don't
possible.
believe
I
there is
don't-
because of the district. Because we're not our own
Yeah.
entity, we're not the city of Ripon Fire Department, we're the Ripon Area Fire District, we're not the town of Ripon Fire Department. Then I believe you could, because as a district, I believe we have different funding criteria of what we can and how we can fund.
Okay.
I don't believe we can do that on referendum.
I don't know
When
the
you start
answer to
throwing
that.
that word out there, there's a lot more that Adam will get you in touch with, then you start talking about revenue sharing from the state, things like that. If you start throwing referendums out there, you lose that 100,000. We talked about that with like infrastructure, roads before on the city side. Talk to Adam about that, because you lose a lot of state aid and stuff if you start throwing a referendum out there. Not only for this year, but for as long as a referendum. We went through that last year or 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. So you actually lose some aid if you go to referendum, and you still have to do it, you still have the cost of the referendum. Showing what you're gonna use it for and how you're gonna use it.
But there are different regulations for districts versus municipalities.
Exactly
Yeah.
what they are, I'm not legal in this town, but I know we've been told that before, and we've talked about it for a truck or whatever. Little different rule with us because of the district, which is good and bad. We have some things that are really cool and some things that also handcuff us because of being in the district. Because basically, think about it, we're all funding it. All three of us would have to go to referendum in a sense. And how do you do that and show that, and they're not gonna go to referendum for $400. Or, whatever their portion would be. It goes 10 times that for 40 grand, I can't, all due respect, I can't see them doing that.
Any other questions,
But I agree.
comments, concerns?
100% that there has been conversation with Adam in the last months here because of this. How long is this gonna last? Is this a short-term need, long-term need? Because if you do start looking long-term, then you're talking about studies,
Sustainability,
consultants,
I mean.
all those kinds of things into play, because is this something we really are gonna switch to, or is this a long-term, is this a short-term, again, as
Yeah,
a
'cause
district?
I mean, realistically, what your budget would look like next year
Could be
Man.
totally
is
different.
this plus whatever you're using in capital reserves this year.
Mhm.
Right?
100,000 would be there.
Maybe 100,000 next year and every year after.
Possibly, if you stay with the paid on premise versus if we hire 5 firefighters that can have daytime calls, we don't need the paid on premise.
Right.
And it depends, I mean, where our recruitment goes also,
Yeah.
you know, in a year from now, you know? There's a lot of variables that go into it. There's a lot of variables. So, you know, but we have to, I agree with you, we have to plan for the worst instead of planning for, you know, the best.
Yeah, next year could be just a shock.
Yeah.
I agree with you, it makes me a little nervous too, but
You? Ours would go up, but the cities would be the bigger shock.
the cities, thanks to, you know, they've got more value, so they're, you know, they go up a lot more.
And, you know, we were, I think, I know I saw Paige last night and Jolene, and we were, at the open house, we were recruiting hard. And, you know, that got us 3 maybes, I think. And then I was just told today, that one of them who really wants to do it, he's a certified firefighter, or he's got his fire associate's degree, that his wife will not let him shave his beard off. That's what I was told today. So,
Different kind of woman, huh?
so I mean, so, you know, not to say there's other departments out there that don't let their firefighters have beards, but that's not the regulation, and I'm not doing that. I'm not putting the district in that
Doesn't it
position,
become a
and I'm not
safety
putting
issue?
myself in that position, correct. That is not the standard, and, you know, sorry. So,
So if you stayed status quo, basically, we'd have to absorb that 85 grand back in. You're figuring we're at, what, 77% of that, so the city side would be 60, you know. Town of Ripon would be about a fifth, so they'd be looking 18, somewhere in there, and the rest in Nipiesco. So it is a pretty big sticker shock, but at the same time, it's not 150,000 or anything like that either.
And right now, it comes down to doing what's best to provide the service that we need to for
For
the
next year.
municipalities. You know, come hell or high water, I want somebody, if my place is on fire during the daytime, I want somebody showing up. You know,
and in the ad, it says in there, as needed. You know, there's a reason we put that in there,
Mhm.
5 days a week, 10-hour days, as needed. Because if there's a day I don't need it, I don't need it.
You're talking about the paid on premise.
right.
Yeah, if there's a day I don't need it, I don't need it. And, you know, there comes a time where I don't need it for this month, because, you know, some of my people are teachers, and they're off during the summertime. The thing we gotta remember is that, you know, is that even though you know, it's just like I brought up before. You have these people around, and it's like, well, where were you before, and you wanna participate in this? Well, it comes down to commitment, this, and committing themselves. To sit around the house or call it may never happen. You know, those are the days it's gonna happen, when they don't sit around the house. So, a lot of variables go into that stuff too, but we'll work through it.
But obviously, chiefs had discussion with others too of the importance of recruiting, and how recruiting needs to be a very, very big high priority going into next year, so 2022, because it takes 6 months to a year to get, you know, up to speed. So starting now through next year, we need to really ramp up, so for 22, hopefully we have membership up from 28, 29 up to 36. You know,
There,
so.
but what we do have to remember when we recruit is that if we recruit, that may not fix our daytime problem, because those people have jobs. And recruiting's not getting any easier, just for the reason I said earlier, you know? And that's the wife who said that. Usually it's the guy who says, I don't wanna shave my beard off, you know?
Recruiting nothing gets us nothing for daytime.
What's that?
Recruiting nothing gets us nothing for daytime. Recruiting gives us an opportunity. for
Correct.
hopefully-
I totally agree with you. I'm not saying, I'm not disagreeing, I'm agreeing 100%. And the guy who didn't wanna shave his beard, the wife was interested, I said, well, we got women too, come on in. You
Yeah.
know, she's in shape, so, I don't know. You know, you push, there's a sense where you push too hard, you know, there was another one that I talked to last night, and I said, oh, he should get on the fire department. He works for the county or whatever, and, you know, and she's like, nope. I go, why not? Because I told him no. Okay, not pushing you any further. So, but, yes, recruitment is important, and that's what we're gonna continue to do and push hard, as we always do.
And we lost a good chunk of that last year due to the
Oh.
COVID situation, so.
Yeah, but,
It's basically like starting from scratch again.
yeah, but recruiting has been tough anyway. And I thought I was doing a good job, and I told Jim, we can't blame it just on COVID, and Jim told me that. We can't blame it just on COVID, you know?
And
It's
we're
an
lucky
ongoing
we've been
thing.
doing as we've doing, because all over the state,
It's
some
like
places it's catastrophic.
Right,
Yep.
even like Chief said, most people don't even work in their city where they live, you know, so.
Mhm.
I mean, 50 years ago, if you worked there, you lived there. Now people drive an hour or 2 hours just to go to work, you know.
But to Jim's point too, if we hire, if we recruit 10 people, that's 10 people who might have 2 days off during the week
Right.
that are around town. I mean, there's so many variables, so.
Any other discussion on this? If not, we'll look for a motion.
Have to approve this? What the heck?
I'll make a
Oh,
motion.
But, hold on.
Somebody's got a question.
Yeah,
We need to approve it, or we need to send it for the public hearing, or,
I think we have to go,
because you have to for the
Approve it
public,
before-
yeah, we're not approving the budget till after the public hearing.
right.
Right,
It doesn't
making a
have-
motion to
Take this to the
approve this,
public.
these numbers to
Approve
the
this and send
public
to the
hearing.
public hearing, something like that.
But, I mean, we still have to approve it to go to the
Right.
the public hearing.
Yeah,
Right.
we're not approving the budget until after
Right,
the public
right,
hearing.
right.
We're approving to send
The
That's-
proposed budget
proposed budget to
to
the
the
public hearing.
public hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Has that date been set yet?
That would be the November 2nd board meeting, correct?
Yes,
Mhm.
at 6:30,
For the public hearing before the regular meeting?
right.
Yep,
That's what we've been,
done it in the past.
6:30, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chief will bring ice cream.
I do not know if I will be,
Chief will bring ice cream.
I'll be out of town that weekend, so I'm not sure if I'll be back or
Do we need to change it?
not. No,
Slay him early and get
nothing,
back.
I've missed it 3-4 years in a row. I'm usually out of town that
Yeah.
weekend. I'll be out of the country probably. So I'll make a motion to
Approve the proposed
approve the
budget
proposed budget.
to go to,
Yep, just what Howard said.
yep.
Motion by Hanson. I'll second Howard's.
we need to do that in roll call. Shouldn't-
No.
No.
Do
No,
you-
'cause it's not really approving it, it's just setting it to the next meeting, it's not
Right.
fiscal, it's not
Do you?
binding.
Right.
I was just thinking outside the box, but does there have to be a motion also to approve unanimously the funds to be moved from code and replacement to this?
I think we gotta wait till the end of the
Yeah.
year, no?
It's not in, Kevin, it's not in.
But no, I think there has to be a
You can
motion
do
to
that
use those
November
funds.
meeting. Yeah, that would be part of the November meeting, I think,
Oh, okay.
because when you're approving it, you're gonna do it all.
After the public hearing, then it gets, yeah,
Right.
I got it.
So basically to approve the budget draft as presented.
Yep.
Everybody understand the motion? Do you need it repeated? Huh? All right, all in favor of the motion presented?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All we need now is a motion to adjourn.
So basically, you'll have the budget hearing, which basically the public can come, speak on the budget. If they like it, don't like it, what they don't or not. And then at the regular meeting, then we'll have a motion to approve the budget as presented, which basically takes it back to our municipalities, who then have the final blessing, if you will, lack of a better term. Good with that? Does that sound right?
Yep.
Okay.
And if you have comments to share, obviously you can email them out if you needed to. And if you, knowing that you might be absent, if you had something to share, you could.
Yeah, sometimes I've done a draft. Joel used to read it once in a while, so I wasn't gonna be there.
You've done that
Yeah.
before.
Okay.
Kind of just laying out the highlights and all that. Sometimes I've done that. This one we've kind of talked about enough times. Really, pay the premise is the only thing different in the last 4 years, really. Any big ticket items that I can think of. I think it's real. I think I use that word a lot, real, no fluff. I think it's a real decent budget that can actually get us through next year. To Jonathan's point, though, I do have concerns over 2022. And sustainability and what the future looks like, but I think we all have those concerns. I'm speaking.
22, 23.
Sorry, 23, yeah. Sorry. Thanks, Mike. Always fun.
It's hard to believe it's going that by that fast now,
All right, so look, you got a question?
I do, it was after the fact, but what the miscellaneous revenue for 2022? What's the miscellaneous revenue?
That would be the,
70,000.
no,
No.
that's the 7,500, that's the
Line.
fees and, that's from the different fees and stuff.
Oh,
That's for what we did last week with the hotel room fees.
Oh, all right, I got you.
Sorry, it's just hotel room fees, fire inspection fees, what was the third one? We raised 3 of them last week.
fire prevention.
Fire prevention,
Yeah, it's fire inspection, fire prevention, hotel fees,
If we go out and have to.
classes.
If we sit at a place, if we rent out the hall or the
Correct,
building.
yeah.
If we have to
Um,
go sit at a hotel and monitor because their fire prevention's down.
If there's a general fire alarm, I have.
Do we do,
That's
do you
right.
do room inspection, like revenue in this tied to any Airbnbs that are in Ripon?
I wish you wouldn't have went there.
I know, I mean, like Ripon's probably small ticket compared to like,
So-
we don't have that many. right?
So Ripon does not have a ordinance to inspect Airbnbs. So we do not inspect Airbnbs at this present time. Is that coming down the pipe? It might, I don't know. The room fees that we're talking about, we inspect our hotel rooms. So you inspect the hotel, but then you inspect each room
Sure.
on top of the building itself. So that's one of the room fees that we're talking about, not so much Airbnbs.
Okay.
Should that be a future agenda item?
I think it could be something,
That's-
not here, that's probably more city council, right?
Well, no, as far as the inspection.
It could start here.
That's us, because that's the fire district doing the inspection. If we deem it necessary, that's the fire district that decides who needs the inspections and such.
So-
And fire code. But
So
we
there-
just did the B&Bs 2 years ago, where we just did it for room tax and they had to register and license.
Yeah, that was,
So
It was
it
talked
hasn't
about
been,
it.
to your point, it hasn't been 10 years in the making. We only first even started with B&Bs.
2 years ago,
I think
3
it was
years
2.
ago,
I think it was 2.
3 years ago.
Was it 3?
Yep, and
We had discussion and then.
we talked about it back then. Oh, God, what was I just gonna say, left on
It's more on
my,
the room tax side on our side.
mhm.
Because what are they?
oh,
Are they
yeah,
you or is it a hotel? Is it
Yeah.
room, who? And then because they didn't want to have to pay the room tax fees. Or
So-
tax, if you will.
Okay.
Yet they wanted the benefit of the advertising.
But they want the advertising on the
The
chamber
rooms
website.
available.
and-
so just so you understand, so for an example, there's a book like this, it's called NFPA 1. That is what was adopted by the city as their fire code. So let's say something's not in the ordinance, but it's in the fire code, I can enforce the fire code even though it's not in the ordinance. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So,
I sit with an NFPA 110 book at my desk. every
okay,
day.
so it's nothing
Bunch of
between,
old firefighters that wanna make.
So you got
more
that
money.
going for you.
yeah, right, that's some interesting reading. But yeah, between NFPA, SPS 330, SPS 334, and the city code, aside from that, I can enforce pretty much
We try not to blanket it right on the ordinance, because there's no way you list everything in an ordinance.
Sure.
It's just physically impossible. I mean, you drive yourself nuts trying to make an ordinance and get everything in there half the time. So you just reference back to the code that's out there in the state, kind of covers us. That
Sorry,
was,
sorry to derail, I'm just.
no, that's,
No, I just figured, you know, if you didn't know that, that's how the codes work.
helpful.
That's how enforcement, things to enforce or whatever.
we've had that discussion over the years of blanket municipality cost or use fee. I mean, that's, to me, municipal finance 101 is how you gonna pay for it. You wanna do something great, but how you gonna pay for it?
Yeah.
Tax the citizen, fee the citizen, or come up with state aid? How do you get that? How do you get those funds? You know, so to your point, if D&D has to have one, they would pay the inspection fee, just like anybody else, any other business.
Yeah.
So if you want to include it, there'd be something in our,
Yeah, I just feel like that's somewhere in there, in the middle ground of everything is probably what the solution's gonna be at the end of next year. Increasing taxes, X amount, increasing fees, you know, recruiting, you know, it's probably gonna be everything, right? I mean, it's not gonna be one thing.
Mhm.
because those miscellaneous revenues too, that's been a bouncing ball for the last 10 years in our, I mean, that's always changed, because it's not always real. You know, and again, we try to keep this real, you know. Chief and I have had, can we really get 10 grand? No, then we're not gonna list it. You know, we've talked about that. What can we really, truly feel we can get as revenue? Oh, we can rent out the conference room every other weekend. But who's gonna do it? Last year, we would've got no revenue off it.
Yep.
And if we budgeted 3 grand, we're short 3 grand. So try to keep that real.
Anything else? I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Hey, boss. Okay.